It is my belief that education should be centered around personal meaning and purpose. I believe students should have the power to pursue subjects of their choosing, and in so doing, will experience a deeper, more transformational, more productive educational journey. The result is more engaged, lifelong learners. My name is Elizabeth Beasley. I'm the executive director of Chase's Place. Chase's Place is a small school for kids with special needs in the Dallas area. 15 years ago, as a young teacher at Chase's Place, I was first introduced to the idea that students should spend their time gaining skills that are meaningful to their own lives. To be honest, at the time, I didn't really fully understand the significance of this vision. Even after becoming executive director of Chase's Place, it would take me many life experiences to fully get it. In fact, it was motherhood that really brought it home for me. As I imagined a life for my kids, As I imagined a life for my kids, I imagined their time being spent in meaningful interactions with peers, teachers, and family. It is my kids who have taught me the importance of meaning, because without it, there is no joy. Joy is the last jolt of energy that comes right before crossing the finish line at that 5K or 10K, or for those of you overachievers, I know some of you are in this room, a marathon. Joy is that feeling that your little leaguer gets when they hit their first home run and run the bases. It is the experience of overwhelming pride we feel when we or someone we love accomplishes something that is important to us or them. The bottom line is that we want to spend our time, our energy, and our resources on things that matter to us, and our kids do too. This concept is not new in special education. As all of you in this room know, I'm sure, that special education students follow an individual education plan, or IEP. This is when families, educators, and school administrators come together and decide what is important to that student's success, and they put this plan into action. For the record, I've never seen an IEP meeting where people are this happy. But hey, we're going with it, right? So when a student reaches high school age, they are included in these meetings and have a voice regarding their own educational path and goals. The reason for this is that when a special education student reaches age 15, they begin the transition from discussing education goals to life goals. This gives me pause. If the purpose of schooling is to provide us skills needed for life, why don't all children have an individual education plan? Surely we are not to believe that all kids should fit into a predetermined, one-size-fits-all public education model. From kindergarten to high school graduation, our kids average just under 16,000 hours in the classroom. This calculation does not include the close to 20 hours of homework many students are expected to complete each week outside of the classroom. This is the equivalent of working 40 hours a week, 52 weeks per year for 8 years. This begs the question, would you sign up to work full-time for 8 years in a job that you didn't choose, and you have little say in what your day-to-day job requirements will be? I wouldn't. Like many of you, I was a good student, which really just means that I was compliant, I made good grades, and therefore was rewarded to admission to a good college. But when I look back at my many years of schooling, and there have been many, I can honestly say that I remember less than a quarter of what I was taught, because most of it wasn't really of interest to me. And I bet I'm not the only one who feels that way. Folks, this isn't learning. When subject matter is not meaningful to the learner will either A, like me, commit the material to short-term memory right before the test only to forget it a few days later, or B, and I think we can all agree that this is much worse, they will disengage from the learning process altogether. How many of you know a 20-something-year-old who was wandering through life like a lost toddler in need of redirection during preschool center time? Anybody? How many of you have been that 20-something-year-old? I definitely fit in that category. Desperately searching for purpose, but not having the faintest clue how to get it. So, so if we were able to create a more personalized education for our young people, I believe we could significantly minimize the number of aimless young adults that we have. So I discussed this concept with a woman I recently met at a Toastmasters meeting. In the middle of our discussion, I learned that she was a local school board member in my district, by the way, and was very active in education throughout my state. It would have been helpful to have known that before I opened my big fat mouth. Toastmasters rule number 1, know your audience. Anyway, when I explained to her that I remembered very little from my schooling, she stopped me and said, very condescendingly, I might add, "But dear, you were missing the point," she explained. She too remembered very little from her school. The point of school, she said, was that we all need to learn to sit through boring lectures so that we can learn the value of finishing something. That's what earning a degree is about. I sat for a moment and pondered what I had heard. A school board member just told me that schooling is just basically about learning how to survive. Well, that's not good enough for me. Finishing something that I detested has never been a meaningful experience for me. It has never sparked joy. Relief? Definitely, but never joy. Do we really want our education tagline to read, "Schooling, a lot of relief, but not much fun"? This sounds more like a Mylanta ad than an inspiring message of hope to engage lifelong learners. Mylanta, get the relief you deserve after suffering through years of unwanted gas. Please don't misunderstand me. I don't believe that learning should be joyful at all times. I believe that learning is a process that involves hard work and struggle. I believe a meaningful education is by definition the process of moving toward your potential. I envision a system where learners are the driver, not the passenger. I think we can all agree that a baseline level of education is essential to good citizenry. We need to be able to do basic math, reading, write, and have good grammar. We all need to be exposed to basic scientific concepts and know how government works. But do we all need to study calculus, chemistry, English literature? I don't think so, particularly if doing so increases a student's anxiety while diminishing curiosity and self-esteem. Let's ask the question, is forcing our children to take coursework lacking personal meaning and efficient use of their time, their energy, or our tax dollars? As subjects move from more general concepts into higher level thinking, student exploration will naturally gravitate to areas of interest, strengths, and personal meaning. This in turn will increase the chances of a student developing a life and career that fulfills and challenges them. Early childhood teachers, you guys, and administrators, you already know this. We can learn a lot from your example. If we really think about it, today's innovative workplaces really resemble a preschool classroom. Workspaces are becoming more and more open, and employees work together in project teams. Like a preschool teacher during center time, managers move from team to team, engaging in discussions and providing guidance. We live in a time where information is power, and the ability to think critically and solve problems is essential for success. When employees feel heard and empowered inside their workplace, they are more productive, more innovative, and more loyal to their employer. Does this sound familiar? Any similarity to class here? Yeah. When Tim Brown, CEO of IDEO, who amongst his many accolades led the design team to create the first mouse for Apple computers, was asked about information sharing within his team, he responded with, "We cannot teach what we do from the top down. You can't teach the piano in a classroom. You cannot teach the skills of creativity or innovation in the classroom. It's a different kind of learning." And he went on to say, "The top of an organization may not be able to cause innovation, but it certainly can kill it." Remember that. I'll come back to that in just a second. Schools are changing too. Educators spend a lot less time lecturing in front of the classroom, and students are often divided into small groups and engage in learning activities. The internet and educational software have made it possible for students to engage in lessons and move forward at their own pace. Okay, so let's be honest, it probably looks a little bit more like that. All right, so I think this is fantastic news, but we need to take it one step further. At all levels, elementary, intermediate, and high school, when students acquire basic competency skills, it allows them to pursue their interest. Let's empower them to design projects, both individually and within teams, that further their knowledge in their chosen field. Today's technology makes this possible. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example.
Meet Abby. Abby is interested in architecture and thinks she might want to pursue a career as an architect. Abby's guidance counselor encourages her to take upper-level math and science courses that can provide her a foundational knowledge in this chosen field. This includes geometry, trigonometry, and physics. She is also encouraged to learn technical drawing skills, either in partnership with the school art department or as a self-guided study. As Abby's interest in architecture continues to grow, her counselor grants Abby permission to take either online or in-person courses during school hours at their local community college. Abby is permitted to take architectural history, architectural drafting, and introduction to interior design. Throughout the entire process of taking this coursework, Abby is participating and at times leading project teams for students with mutual or overlapping interests. Abby also has the opportunity to correspond and receive guidance from a current or retired architect. This can be in person on school grounds or online through a school communication system. One of Abby's projects might include the following students: an inspiring architect, a structural engineer, 2 carpenters, an interior designer, an accountant, a city planner, and a marketing professional.
So let me repeat myself. The technology to create these individualized learning plans is available now. The question is, are we adults willing to change ourselves to better meet the needs of this next generation? I want to leave you with one last thought. Remember the Tim Brown quote? He said the top of an organization may not be able to cause innovation, but it certainly can kill it. This got me thinking. You know the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink? As educators, we can throw all kinds of information at our students, but we can't make them learn. But really, it's our duty to make them want to learn. When schooling prevents students from actively exploring, creating, and solving real-life problems, we all lose. When we unknowingly teach our students to be bystanders in their own education, we are unknowingly contributing to increased frustration, anxiety, and depression. We are teaching young people to be more dependent on their families, friends, and society to meet their basic needs. So I challenge you, really take the time to think about, how are we educating our children? Does our system as it is make sense? Are we doing things this way because this is how we've always done them? What can we do today to set our kids on a clear and purposeful path? How can we teach them to be responsible adults who will impact the world in a meaningful way? I believe with your help, it's all within reach. Thank you.